Hoxie, Arkansas, a rural farming town 125 miles northeast of Little Rock, the state's capital, seemed an unlikely stage for a classic chapter in the book of conflict and compromise that is America's race relations. Located in Lawrence County and with a population of scarcely 21,000 souls, the Hoxie 21 offered a glimpse of the coming struggle to integrate America's public schools. The seeds of conflict at Hoxie were planted in the late 1940s as several consolidations left the Hoxie School District with a single high school. In 1952, K.E. Vance, a man of physically imposing stature, became superintendent of the school system. Vance pursued a progressive agenda and drew national attention to the Hoxie educational system. Initially, Hoxie citizens appreciated this visibility, as did the school board. Things would change in 1954 as the Supreme Court issued its ruling in Brown v. Board of Education, declaring segregated schools inherently unequal and requiring integration with all deliberate speed. The term all deliberate speed will be interpreted in very different ways. Throughout southern capitals, state commissioners of education as well as legislators scrambled to find or create loopholes in the ruling. Georgia made it a felony for any school official to spend state funds on integrated schools and declared that teachers who taught integrated classes or belonged to the NAACP risked loss of their licenses. In Arkansas, the governor with legislative support questioned the authority of the court to set aside state laws. In Texas and elsewhere, the Ku Klux Klan again emerged as a public force. Under Vance's leadership, Hoxie moved to comply with the Brown decision and to integrate. In 1955, the district declared that students entering in the fall would be attending integrated schools. Although two Arkansas school districts, Charleston and Fayetteville, already began integration 1 year prior, Hoxie became the first town in the Mississippi Delta to embrace the new national law and integrate. Superintendent Vance's position on integration was based on three key beliefs. Integration is right in the sight of God, integration complies with the law of the land, and integration saves money. Life magazine intoned,
while other southern communities were busy looking for loopholes in the anti-segregation mandate handed by the Supreme Court a year ago, Hoxie's 5-member school board consciously interviewed parents and came to the conclusion that integration was right in the sight of God.
For blacks, integration promised significant improvements in their educational prospects. Hoxie colored schools were clearly not equal to white schools. Books were few and far between, tattered and torn. In fact, the biggest surprise the integrating students found was a library. According to Ethel Tompkins, one of the Hoxie 21,
usually once or twice a month, someone from the Hoxie school would come over to our school, and we had their music teacher would come over, and we'd have get some of the things that they had there, but that was maybe like once a month.
The Delta's farm economy inclined its communities, including Hoxie, to accommodate racial differences. The town's community was homogeneous and tight-knit, both economically and socially. It was also very poor. Hoxie's population of 1,855 had a median annual income of $1,279, two-thirds the national average. Coexistence, compromise, and cooperation in this farming town were necessities. A Hoxie without cooperation was a hungry Hoxie. Adults worked together to achieve the common goal of survival, and children played together, according to Ethel Tompkins.
Everybody just got along. In my neighborhood, I played with the kids. I spent as much time at their house as they spent at mine.
Initially, integration at Hoxie was peaceful, a model of what could be done. Entering black students were welcomed. Teachers were supportive.
First day of school, there was nobody outside. The only people there were parents dropping off their kids, the little kids. My first day of school was very peaceful. I knew most of the kids that were in my class already from the neighborhoods and all around. The teachers were very welcoming.
In its July 25, 1955 edition, Life magazine reported that
by the end of the day, the children were behaving as if they had gone to school together all their lives.
However, this period of cooperation was short-lived. The Life article proved a call to arms for segregationists and white supremacists. As word spread of the successful Hoxie integration, supremacist leaders such as Jim Johnson, an Arkansas state legislator who co-founded the White Citizens Council of Arkansas, voiced concern. These leaders, in an effort to form a segregationist base, enlisted and indoctrinated local Hoxie citizens, including Herbert Brewer, who, caught up in the outsiders' rhetoric, vehemently spat racial slurs. As protests mounted, the school began to feel ill effects. Shortly after protests were initiated, Brewer was quoted as saying, "The bus which passes my house each morning is ordinarily full of children. This morning there were only 6. In early August, 150 citizens signed a pact to boycott the integrating schools. 2 days later, supremacist leaders claimed 350 signers. A little-known truth about the number of signers is the relation to the school. Many signers had no school-age children. Only about 1 in 5 actually had school-age children. With the passage of time, a number of these signers would ask that their names be stricken from the White Citizen Council's resolution. The fear campaign took its toll. School attendance plummeted as time progressed. Teachers began to receive absentee notes from parents as the possibility of physical conflict grew.
Miss Borman,
Wrote one parent.
"We kept Kathleen out because of the dispute in school."
Said another.
"Miss Borman, please excuse Carolyn for missing school. She was out on account of the colored."
Jim Johnson, a state segregation leader, was quoted as telling the citizens of Hoxie,
"If I send my child to an integrated school, I might see the day when I'll be bouncing a half nigger on my knee and have him call me grandpa."
The efforts of the segregationists eventually led the school board to seek legal assistance. In the case Hoxie versus Brewer, the school district pursued a legal injunction to stop activities which hindered the integration of the Hoxie public schools. Simultaneously, the defendants in the case, Herbert Brewer, Amos Guthridge, and White America Incorporated, sought legal action to suspend integration. The court record states,
"The defendants, by threats and efforts to intimidate the board of directors, by the circulation of propaganda literature, and by inflammatory speeches, as well as by trespassing upon school property under the jurisdiction of the plaintiffs, and by threatening to set up a picket line to obstruct ingress of children to the school, and by attempting to persuade children's parents to withdraw them from the schools, are endeavoring to hinder, obstruct, and defeat plaintiffs' attempt to comply with federal law with regard to the operation of the school."
the case assumed national proportions and became, at least in part, a question of states' rights versus national authority. FBI agents arrived only to prove ineffective or worse. At the highest levels, the administration was conflicted.
Eisenhower really didn't want to push the states' rights issue. And say he would have had to have done that. However, because the way the Supreme Court justices made their ruling, and they put in the clause, all deliberate speed.
Local journalism proved to be pernicious. The Jonesboro Evening Sun falsely stated Brewer's efforts, claiming Hoxie schools were released due to the White Citizens Council's petition. In actuality, the children's release was an annual event for the cotton harvest, the lifeblood of Hoxie as well as similar Mississippi Delta towns. Cooler heads worked for compromise. To hear the cases about Hoxie, a retired St. Louis judge was enlisted. For Judge Reeves, ruling on the case was not a matter of employment nor advancement. He was truly the impartial judge, as reflected in his even-minded judgment in the opinions handed down regarding Hoxie. Even Herbert Brewer, acting surprisingly rational, though brashly stated that, if by popular majority the citizenry of Hoxie supported integration, "I'll get down on my knees in front of the post office at Hoxie and apologize for everything I've said about that nigger-loving school board." Ultimately, the matter was resolved in favor of the school board. In summation, if the events at Hoxie had not transpired as they did, and the Hoxie segregationist protagonists prevailed, Southern integration would have been delayed 2 or 3 more decades, hindered by all deliberate speed. The success of the Hoxie integration determined the outcome of educational integration in the American South. The determination of the school board members in the face of relentless ridicule from both local peers and foreign enemies led America down a long, tedious path of racial righteousness, which is our modern code. This code we follow today began with the efforts, determination, and unity of those willing to fight for equality regardless of race, creed, or sex, whether it was on the front steps of the Supreme Court, the post office at Hoxie, or those at Little Rock Central High.